Good evening, everyone. Happy Wine Wednesday with Tracy and Amy. We are so happy to have you back. I am happy to have Amy back, and I know you guys love when she is here. I do as well, and I know that you guys look forward to these videos. In fact, some of you get together with your girlfriends, I know, and have wine. It almost makes me think of like a bachelor night.
Yes, I know a lot of people get together for various viewings, and number one, I feel so special.
We love it. Thank you so much. You guys are so amazing. We adore you. Well, stop the video. Go grab whatever it is that you like to wind down with. We will be winding down with Chianti tonight. Do you like Chianti?
I'm not sure, but I can't. Every time I hear it, you know what I think of?
No.
Flava beans and a Chianti. Name of the movie.
I don't know.
Silence of the Lambs.
Oh my God. You have such a good memory of songs in movies and shows.
Yes, not
I
usually
don't.
movies, but I always remember because
oh my goodness.
you don't want to know what he had the Chianti with. It wasn't just the flava beans.
Okay. Well, you can tell me later. Maybe after we finish the bottle. Is that what you're thinking?
Probably.
Okay. Well, we are having Ruffino Chianti. This is one of my favorites if I'm having Chianti. This is about a $20 to $30 bottle. I definitely recommend it. So notepad this one if you would like to serve it, especially if you're having like an Italian meal or something like that. But I am going to get us poured. You pour yourself whatever it is that you would like to wind down with and come back and join us. Cheers.
Cheers.
To Wine Wednesday. We are going to do some chit-chat tonight in this video. I know that you ladies enjoy when we talk about hot topics, and that is what we are going to do. And really, to be honest, we get our ideas from you. So keep them coming. Always know to utilize the comment section below and leave suggestions, comments, ideas for future videos. We love to hear what you would like to have us talk about. So tonight we are going to tackle some of the things that have been presented to us, and we will see how much we can get in as we are drinking. This is a good one. This is a good one.
Ooh, I like that.
This is a good one.
I think this was my first Chianti.
Ooh.
I was a Chianti virgin.
Chianti virgin. Ooh, interesting.
All goes back to the movie.
So I have a question here that I am going to read that came through, I want to say, it was YouTube. This was left on my and Amy's last Wine Wednesday YouTube video by Candy. Candy says, I absolutely love these videos. I am 32, have celebrated 12 years of marriage, and take a lot away from these chatty advice videos. I would love to hear thoughts on in-laws and family boundaries, and also more on the love languages and how to meet each other's needs. Also, thoughts on women's roles in marriage, working versus stay-at-home mom. Who does the cooking, cleaning, house, chores, etc.? Again, love these videos with you too. Thank you, Candy, so much for sending this. Now, we are all over the place.
There are a lot of
things.
There are a lot of topics in that one.
But I do think that these are topics that most of you would probably love for us to talk on. So let's tackle some of these, and this might be all that we get to. All right, Amy, what do you want to tackle first?
Well,
thoughts on in-laws and family boundaries. We could talk about boundaries in general, in relationships in general. So this could be boundaries in a relationship with your partner. It could be boundaries with family members as well as girlfriends. And I know recently you were presented with something that you had to think about your boundaries.
I think most of us are in many of our relationships, even work relationships. Do you want this particular relationship, do you want them to know about your personal life? Sometimes we want to set the boundary of, you get to know me as a professional and a little bit about my personal life. I mean, that's setting a boundary. I'm not going to share with you too many intimate details. And sometimes in certain business circumstances, I think that's important. But yes, as far as with family members, it gets a little tricky because we are always going to be part of a family. There are some people, because of extreme pain incurred during, within some relationships, that they do choose to sever those ties completely. But most times we don't want to go to that extreme.
Right.
And so it's hard to say exactly where to set this is basically up to each individual person
I agree with
and
that.
relationship.
I agree with that.
Do you have if there's been a lot of hurt, it's not that you have to sever that relationship, but you can set a boundary such that we communicate in a friendly manner, but I'm sometimes we have to have those walls
Right.
to protect ourselves and our mental health.
I agree. And I think that one of the things that you always have to watch is you're not bringing up topics that can strike a chord with someone and strike a chord with you personally. If you know from past experience that certain topics have went downhill, then don't bring them up, because you're really setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up to have animosity.
And if there is a hurtful topic area and the other person brings it up, that's what we mean by setting boundaries. You have the right to say, that's not really a topic I really care to discuss either right now, or that topic has a tendency to bring up some hurt feelings,
Right.
or I think that we should just steer clear of that particular topic, and you have the right to do that.
I agree, and sometimes it's how you relate that message to the other person. You never want to come off negative towards them or attacking. Sometimes it's better just to say, I am uncomfortable talking about this. This opens up wounds for me, because then it places it more on you, and they're going to be less apt to take it personally. And that's where we can get into trouble, is because people take things personally. You take things personally, other people do as well. So always watch what your words are. Your choice of words can say a lot.
By taking ownership of it, you are not causing them to get defensive. Once they get defensive, that's when things can get a little ugly sometimes. If you think about it, even in relationships you were mentioning, with our significant others, you bring up, we're gonna stop. I'm sorry. I'm like, where am I going? All right, sorry about that. I don't know, for some reason something got
That's
twisted
okay.
up there.
I do feel it's important to set up boundaries as far as how much talking you do about each other's families. And I believe this is when you start to see estrangement happen, because you may say something about, let's say, your in-laws, and it doesn't go over well with him, and this can create problems in the relationship. So if those boundaries would have been set up from the get-go, maybe you wouldn't have this issue. He could relate messages back to his parents that you said. Now this creates animosity with them. I do think it's very important to, early in a relationship, discuss this. The reason I say that is because I am communicated so much by many of you talking about relationships with sister-in-laws, your mother and father-in-law. And a lot of times I feel if boundaries would have been set up early in the relationship of what is acceptable and what is not, this would have been prevented.
Absolutely. Are you talking primarily about, for example, what I would say about Kelly's family
Correct.
to Kelly?
Correct.
Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about girlfriends? Because you recently had a situation.
You mean my girlfriends?
Yes.
Not with...
Yes.
Because my mind was spinning as you were talking.
Well, I'm kind of segueing just so we don't stay on one too long.
Right.
How do you feel? Yeah.
Because what comes up a lot of times with my couples,
I'm sure,
is talking with members of the opposite sex, and that's why I always say, your partner gets to set the boundaries. What he or she is comfortable with or uncomfortable with as far as your relationship with members of the opposite sex.
Which
another topic.
In which really we can cover all of that.
Yes.
So go more into that one.
Well, for example, I'm sure you have been posed the question before as well. Is it okay that, how do you feel about your husband having female friends? And again, if you're uncomfortable with a particular relationship, and we've discussed this somewhat before, is this member of the opposite sex meeting any of the needs, companionship, quality conversation, the kinds of needs that your partner needs to be meeting. And if you are starting to feel as though this other person is meeting some of your partner's needs, I think absolutely you have the right to set that boundary. And, well, of course, say
Personal
it's
boundaries.
they're just a friend.
Right.
Well, I understand that, but certain friendships I'm uncomfortable with, and I'm
Right.
setting that boundary there.
And that's a personal boundary as well. I think it's important to set boundaries for yourself personally, not necessarily boundaries that your partner is putting on you.
Yes.
Or that's
Yes.
kind of the same type of thing. If
That
you
would
had
be
that
ideal. Yeah.
if you had that boundary for yourself, that conversing with a female, or it could be male, whatever, in the office, if it is not business and we are talking about personal lives, that's opening a window again. So you set those boundaries for yourself, which can be hard, but you want to step in and honor the boundaries that you've put in place for yourself very early on, before you start to feel a little bit of emotional connection. Because I feel like, and would you say, once you get to a certain point and that emotional connection is made, I think it almost becomes like an addiction to get more. I want more. I want more of this.
Yeah.
I rely on this.
And at that point, being attended to, appreciated, admired, definitely can be an addiction. All those same words.
Yes. Well, let's see. What else do we have? So she has so many great things, Candy. We're so appreciative for this. So we did talk about the boundaries. Let's talk a little bit about love languages, because so many people have really loved anytime we've talked about the love languages, and I will have links provided in the drop-down box as well as on the blog post for you to take the 5 love languages test. This can be done with you, your significant other, and you can also do this with your children. My husband and I did it with our kids when they were little. It's different for everybody, but once you know your partner's love language, if you tap into that, it can do amazing things. So I do think it is really, really important. Do you want to share with everybody what they are?
Well, and let me start out by saying I learned about these quite a while ago. You even said the other day, this book was written years ago, but it's so relevant. And for me, even, I have for example, I'm thinking, a new couple, and oftentimes by the 3rd session, we are talking love languages, and the light bulbs go off, because they recognize he does love me, just in a different way.
Right.
Now, ideally, we will learn typically what we do is we express love in our love language, in the way that we receive love and feel love. We like to express love
That's
that
right.
way. But the ideal is to learn what your partner's love language is and express that to them.
That's right.
And the 5 love languages are acts of service, gifts, physical touch, quality time, and words of affirmation.
That's correct. So if your partner is somebody that needs words of affirmation, but maybe you don't, what's generally going to happen is you don't give that easily because it's not your love language. But tapping into what their love language is where it is all at. And we're very selfish. A lot of times we think about ourselves, but if you were to give words of affirmation to your partner, it's amazing how loved they feel. But maybe words of affirmation is not your love language, and that does nothing for you because you want acts of service. You want him to do things for you, and now you feel loved. I feel it is so imperative for couples to know this about one another. It can be so relationship changing. It really can.
I agree. And like I said, part of it is just the recognition that, okay, he or she did love me all this time. They just showed it in ways that really weren't as significant to me, but they had the good intentions. Now, ideally, we will demonstrate all of these things with our partner, but yes, to recognize your partner's at least top 2 can be significant. I'll give you an example, personal. I used to lie in my sessions and say, okay, so I had this couple.
It's all coming out on Wine Wednesday with Amy.
It was me, and I can say that now.
You can always say it after the fact, can't you?
And I think Kelly would be fine with me sharing this. But he would say to me and still does sometimes, I don't feel like we really connected today. And I remember looking at him thinking, why does he feel this way? And it was always about the touch or lack thereof.
Okay.
Number one for Kelly is physical touch. And I know why this goes back to his youth. Sometimes your love language is something that you received often, and sometimes it's something you never received.
So you were neglecting of some
Right.
sort, yeah.
And so don't get me wrong. I have no problems with being touched. I enjoy affection. I enjoy holding hands. I enjoy all of it, but it's toward the bottom of my list. So I have to remind myself, go kiss him before you go to take a shower. I have to remind myself that that's how he feels that we are connected, and how he feels that I'm thinking of him and showing love to him.
My husband is physical touch as well, and just even stroking like his arm and just saying, hey honey, have a good day, or whatever it is, just that little bit. It does not take much. So don't take like a physical touch and think, oh boy, it's not sexual. Not that they're gonna turn that down. Doesn't have to be.
Stroke. Kelly loves to have his arm stroked.
Right.
And sometimes
among other areas. It is
stroking again.
We're always, stroking comes up in every Wine Wednesday, but it wouldn't be Wine Wednesday if we didn't stroke it.
The arm, the ego.
The ego. I almost think the ego probably benefits a little bit more than anything else to be stroked. I really do.
Oh, I would totally agree.
See, coming from a
totally
counselor.
Agree. And we've talked about that before. We all know that if we can get past our pride and tell our partner the good things that we see in him or her, if we could all do that all the time, you wouldn't need me. So
that's right.
Maybe I shouldn't recommend that.
But a lot of times it's a competition, and we spend so much time looking at the negative in things that we miss the opportunity to see the positive and have enriched relationships because of it. And that's exactly what you will get. And we talk about this all the time in our videos. Set aside your pride. There are positive things to find in your loved one.
Absolutely.
I
make my couples do that. Yeah. Sometimes first in either the first or second session, and I tell them to do this as homework, to spend time each day telling one another what they love and appreciate about them.
In thanking, you can find something to thank your partner for, believe it or not.
Right. Not just showing appreciation for
that.
What someone does, but for who they are.
I love that.
Who they are as a person. I love that you are so dedicated to providing for our family.
That speaks volumes. It really does.
I love that you are kind to other people. Remember when I did the thing on Snapchat, that was one of the top essentials that people were looking for. And again, they switched it around to a partner as opposed to a relationship. And that was the number one, is that they want someone who is kind to others. So if your partner is that way, show appreciation for that.
Recognize it. Yeah, recognize it. How to meet each other's needs? Tap into their love language, Candy. That's how I would say meet each other's needs.
There are a lot of reading materials as well as and needs.
Also, thoughts on women's roles in marriage, working versus stay-at-home mom. Well, this goes back to the essentials. Mm-hmm. Not everybody, I believe, requires, I don't know. I think we all desire hands-on, but it's tough because
every situation is so different.
It is. I feel that is something, and I've talked about this on Snapchat, you have to recognize what you require from a partner. And I feel like it's really important to know this early on, but if you are already in a marriage and it's not something that you are receiving, I always go back to communication. I feel that having a team effort completely with everything to do with the house and everything to do with the raising the children is so important, but it doesn't always happen. And I think resentment does get built up because of that, but I think that communicating is the key instead of always expecting. It should be a balance. It's, I don't know. It's so hard because I know for me that is important, but I don't know if it is for everybody else.
Well, and again, like you said, it comes down to knowing what it is that knowing what your expectations are. And I tell couples sometimes to, okay, sit down, determine what all needs to be done. And this is where it gets hard because she said stay-at-home mom versus working mom. Okay, so let's say the working mom gets home 3 hours before the working dad. And so you have to, I think, sit down when emotions are not
That's
high,
right, yeah.
and determine what needs to be done and what is fair in terms of responsibilities. And if somebody's getting home earlier, or if somebody, to be honest, sometimes some jobs are so extremely physical that there's no energy left at the end of the day.
I agree.
So it does become difficult in determining what one person believes needs to be done and the other person doesn't need to be done. So again, that's just something that you have to work out, each couple. And by the way, this is kind of, it may be discouraging for some, about 60 to 70% of disagreements in our relationships, it can only be managed, not resolved. And so oftentimes this is an area that just has to be managed. And sometimes...
Don't be discouraged. Because that can be discouraging. I drink to that.
I know. But you sometimes we hear this about our kids. You pick your battles. I mean, there are some occasionally I think to myself, okay, why can't he do this with the dishes or the dishwasher? It's not that big of a deal.
I will share a quick little story off of this. Early on, I was that person that would kind of correct my husband because I had a way I liked things done. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, or I should say I still am in many areas. I always say the dear Lord gave me 5 kids for a reason, and it was because I needed it to settle down. I don't really recall when the turning point took place.
It was my third.
Probably my third, McKenna. It's always McKenna. Always
and
McKenna.
Jeffrey when he was little. I love you, Jeffrey.
But there was a turning point for me where I did become that person that was just happy and thankful to have it done, even if it wasn't done my way. And boy, was that a game changer, because I feel like if I were to look back, I could probably pinpoint that there was a turning point for my husband and I in how we related to one another. I just respected him for doing it, for helping me. Anybody, it didn't matter who it was. I just was happy to have it done. It didn't have to be Tracy's way. So sometimes just give up. I think a lot of it is control.
Oh, yes.
Control is such a big issue. It really is. Let go of having everything your way. I'd much rather be the person that I am today and give that grace to anybody that gives me their time and their effort than what I was before, when I couldn't even appreciate the help that I received.
Well, as we know, or I'm assuming most of us know, the desire for extreme control leads to anxiety, and just the peace that you can have in your general everyday life, if you can give some of that up.
Yeah.
The serenity prayer, or just like you were saying, expecting everything to be perfect. That goes back to a lot of
so overrated. Perfectionism is so overrated.
And it pretty much always goes back to someone feeling as though they're not good enough, so they have to overcompensate by making it perfect.
Right. And you can really discourage people from wanting to help you. I know myself, if somebody was constantly putting me down for my efforts, I really wouldn't have interest in putting my efforts there at all, because my time is valuable. And if you're not going to appreciate the time I'm devoting to you, well, again, like I always say, how's it working for you?
And it's ironic how much perfectionism seems to be out there these days, related to another topic you had mentioned earlier.
Yes, let's segue.
Let's do that, shall we? And I see this so much in my work as a counselor. And again, sometimes, oftentimes this perfectionism underlying that perfectionism is I'm not good enough. So I have to overcompensate by trying to make everything perfect because who I am isn't good enough. And by doing that, putting pressure on ourselves to be perfect, oftentimes we see that we put that onto others as well.
Definitely
And
agree.
we have noticed that in some critiquing of, on social media or occasionally in person. But I think, like you were saying before, there comes quite a bit of confidence when one is behind a keyboard.
A lot of our conversing with other people is through a keyboard, whether it's text messaging, email, leaving comments on social media, even the post that you leave on social media can leave a perception of who you are. Are you a positive person? Are you a negative person?
Are you a dramatic person?
Are you a dramatic, right? Are you somebody that is always looking for drama? Be very careful. And one of the things that Amy and I have talked about, because it is something that both her and I practice, pause. Pause for a moment when you type up anything, whatever it is, if it's on a keyboard, pause.
Read it out loud.
Read it out loud and ask yourself, how does my message come off?
Would I say this in person to someone's face?
That's right.
Here's the thing. We've discussed this before, and we've been critiqued on different physical features, language, grammar, etc.
I have done well. Cheers to that.
I told you, I still think that is active listening.
It's my animation.
When you are videoing.
Yeah, it's not pretty in video, but anyway, go ahead.
Does not bother me. And to a degree, we've discussed, we're not that penetrated by the fact that somebody is critiquing our hair or makeup or grammar. Typically, though, we think, gosh, that poor person is probably 10 times more critical of themselves.
I agree.
But let me ask you this. Okay, so you left a critique. I don't know, maybe you think you're helping that person. Chances are they probably, is a slip of the tongue, or they'll look at that video and say, oh, you're right, that hair is out of place. But did you feel any better by leaving that comment? And wouldn't you have felt better by leaving a positive comment that made somebody feel good?
Right.
I know, I do. Yeah. When somebody expresses appreciation for me building them up, I want to spread that to as many people as I can.
Right. Yeah. Well, I always try to, if you want to help someone, well, there's two different ways to look at it. I feel like if they're not asking, maybe you just shouldn't comment. So, for instance, I cut my hair a few months ago. I've had a lot of comments on it, to the positive and the negative, and I'm open to that. But I don't recall ever asking anybody's opinion. Now, I'm not saying I'm against anybody sharing. I'm just saying for myself, unless Amy were to say, what do you think of my bangs? Do you think I look better with bangs or without bangs? This is how I operate. Amy, I'm gonna be honest. Do you want my honesty? Yes, that's why I'm asking you, because this is how I would work. Because the window has been open, I'm gonna be honest with her. But if she doesn't ask, I'm not gonna come out and just go, what'd you do different to your hair? I'm not sure if I'm not sure what I think of it yet. I think I liked it before.
Did you gain weight?
Yeah, could you imagine? Did you gain weight?
Doesn't it go back to the very simple thing that we were taught when we were little? If you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything.
Right. Unless somebody asks for your honest opinion.
And even still, I think that there's more appropriate.
So always think about how you word things. And like Amy said, read what you type. Read what you type. Ask yourself, would I say this to the person if I were to run into them in person? If I were to see them in the grocery store, would I feel confident? Same with leaving messages on Facebook. People can be really ugly on that platform, and my question to you is, would you say this to the person in person? And if you want, let that be your guide.
There's so many different areas we could go because, like I mentioned to you before, this comes up so many times, even with our friendships, our relationships.
Right.
We text, we read in between the lines of the text that we receive. So often, first of all, don't bring up anything important via text message. I mean, come on. And sometimes I know it happens, but guess what? You are not able to see that person's verbal, or I'm sorry, their facial cues and so forth.
Absolutely.
Their inflection, everything. It just leads so much miscommunication.
It does. It does.
Leads to miscommunication. But even, for example, so I was telling you that in session, I very rarely question someone by saying the word why. Why denotes judgment. So be careful.
I can see that.
I'll get people saying, well, why do you do this? And why do you do that? And why do you do this? I detect judgment in that.
Yeah.
Now,
it's a challenge. I feel like they're really challenging you.
There's a way, and somebody's like, well, what do you put in that? And I understand that when it's phrased in such a way that they are simply looking for information, but there are other times when I just detect that judgment.
Yeah, I can.
So be careful. I mean, it's the written word can be so misconstrued.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. Just think. Just really think. And again, this goes back to what I said last week in Snapchat. Perception is reality, whether you like it or not. Really,
it's our reality.
It is our reality, and you have to remember that. How do you want to be perceived? How do you want people to perceive you in person? How do you want people to perceive you in text or in messaging or with keyboard? Because we're all on it. We're all on the keyboard drip. We are all on social media or email or texting. How do you want to be perceived? Do you want to be perceived positively, confidently, or do you want to be perceived in a negative way?
And like I said, if it's your intent to spread hate, or if it's your intent to bring someone down a notch, okay. But let me tell you what, making someone feel, appreciated, that they, or recognize that the efforts that they put into something, again, looking at the heart as opposed to the technicalities or the hair or the makeup. Try that. Try supporting someone. Try being encouraging and see how that feels.
Well, I think at the end of the day, how do you feel when you do that? And
that's what I mean.
You feel good.
Try to
Yeah.
encourage others.
Yeah.
I think you're going to feel better than when you're spreading the criticism.
Absolutely. How many times have you walked away and said, if I could take those words back, I would. If I could take my reaction back, I would. Let those be your learning moments. To me, I don't let them lower my self-esteem. I let them be a tool to who I want to be. I let them fuel what I want to be in the future. We can't take back anything from the past, but we can be so impactful in our future.
I agree, but I also think that while you can't take words back, if you do feel remorseful, swallow your pride and make that apology.
I think so too.
Oh,
absolutely. So, and we have such a great friendship. Lipstick on the glass. I wonder if anybody will notice. This is not attractive.
I always drink mine faster than yours.
You do. You know what that's a sign of?
She's talking more than I am.
It's because I'm talking more. Clearly, I'm owning it. I hate that. I hope
you had great content.
This definitely means that I talk too much.
You had great content.
But I hope I worked on my.
I don't think you did it at all, but it doesn't bother me. Just for the record,
yeah.
I teach active listening, so I teach people to nod and to say, "Oh yeah,
right." And it is true, because what I have found out by my own observation, and I also have my husband doing the nudge under the table when I do it, and I take it well, because I asked him to share that with me because I want to be better. What I have recognized is, number one, most people do it, but it's one thing to do it in person, but it doesn't sound or look good on video. So there's
That's
two
what
different
I thought.
things.
It must
Yeah.
be different because, and I, when you do that, I feel like, oh, she agrees with me. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I teach active listening. Not just that you're agreeing, that you're showing the person that you are listening and you are hearing them. And then, of course, you take it farther to showing understanding and validation.
Right.
We aren't going to 100% satisfy every
Everyone.
person out there.
Right.
As as Morris Day and my girlfriend always says, I ain't for everybody, only the sexy people. We aren't going to please everyone.
no.
It's impossible.
And the message I want to take off of that is, don't try to. Don't try to.
Right.
Don't try to please everyone. There are definitely people out there that do, and I really feel that's what holds you back. One of the reasons I say that is the comments I get. Sometimes I'll think, why are you worried about this? This is peanuts. You mean well. Don't worry about it. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to accept you. Not every job interview that you've ever been in did you get the job. That doesn't mean anything negative.
Well, and so often I deal with, loss of relationships.
Right.
And I have to remind people constantly, just because this one person doesn't see your value, doesn't mean that value isn't there.
That's right.
And that holds true. Like I said, we all see things differently based on our experiences. Some people prefer someone who's more charismatic, talks with their hands, and other people prefer, more quiet, reserved people.
Right.
And again, you are not going to please everyone, no matter how hard you try.
right.
It's
That's right.
impossible because guess what? This person wants A, and this person wants B, and you sometimes can't be both.
And you might be C.
And why not? Let's go for the
That's
D.
right. Well, thank you once again for joining us for a Wine Wednesday video. We love doing these.
Yes,
We love spending time together. We have so much fun. We always go out afterwards and chit-chat. It's so nice.
We have, boy, if you could get some of our other conversations on,
I know.
on film.
We should vlog.
We should.
We should vlog one of our Wine Wednesdays.
One of our
Let us
post-Wine
know
Wednesday
if
dinners.
you would like Amy and I to vlog one of them, even from a restaurant. But we do thank you. We so appreciate all of you. And when we talk about some of the hot topics, please take no offense. It is amazing the love and the support that you ladies give to us, men, whatever. You're fantastic. We get very little negativity. We really do.
And again, when it comes, I think we feel more sorry for that person because we know that they're holding their own standards for themselves way too high, that they could never, you can't achieve perfectionism.
Right.
We're humans.
We adore you. Thank you so much. Please share with us. Obviously, if I have Candy's question from the last video, it shows you that we read the comments. We know what you want to hear. We are happy to oblige. Please leave any comment suggestions, future video requests down in the comment section, and we will be happy to hit it.
And wine suggestions.
And wine suggestions as well. I don't know how many of these videos we will get out over the next couple months. We both have a busy May and June, but if we do have a little stretch, have no fear. We will be back, wine included. Thanks again for joining us. Take care.
Cheers.
Good night.